talk to me about any upgrades, initiatives, or anything else the district is doing this year, bond-wise or not.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in Austin ISD. We are looking at this year as a continued year of stability. We have been moving forward on multiple kind of fronts. I would say, as far as the bond-related work from 2022 bond program, that's well underway. Many of our schools are about to be dried in, meaning they're vertical. The roofing's coming on, and so really excited about that work. We just completed a lot of security vestibules. Then we had over 30 security vestibules, which is one of our goals within the 2022 bond program. And so getting that work done early, as well as open concepts, that work has been completed. So yeah, that's one of our big efforts. It's well underway. Another focus of ours this year is around the accountability work, making sure that our systems continue to improve. For us in Austin ISD, back in 23 when we first came together, we were trying to build up culture and climate, making sure we stabilized the workforce, making sure that we were really thoughtful in how we built our systems. And what we're seeing now is evidence of the systems beginning to move. And so we're really, really excited about the 25-26 school year. And we also recognize that we have to tackle consolidations and our continued budget challenges. And so here in the fall semester, you're going to see us carry that forward ultimately for a November vote. Having a very transparent, thoughtful process is the focus of ours, but we have to go through this work as challenging as it is, because we are at a point now where we can't afford to operate in the way that we have. We really need to make sure that the limited resources we have go to where they're needed. And we're also kind of towards the end of our TA agreed order. A couple of years ago, that's something we all talked about, was the focus and the need to address it head on. I'm very proud of the work that we've done here in Austin ISD, and I'm happy to say that's further behind us, and the light at the end of the tunnel is certainly there. So, a lot of really great things happening at Austin ISD. We're really, really excited. Stability matters, climate and culture matters. We're seeing lots of folks come into our system and embracing how we operate, and so yeah, I couldn't be more excited.
Great. And so obviously now I'm going to transition to the budget since you brought it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So kind of talk to me about where Austin ISD stands with their budget, what you guys are doing to improve that, and also talk a little bit, I know you guys put out a message not too long ago about federal funding.
Yeah. So, the last couple of years have been really challenging. The cost of public education and education in general has only continued to increase, right? I mean, everything's more expensive, whether it's fuel or bread, and education is no different. And here in Austin, we make decisions based on our values. There are things that we choose to do. We choose to protect our teachers' work-life balance. We want to protect planning time. We want to make sure that here in Austin ISD, it's known, like everywhere we go, that we value librarians, and we have an emphasis in these things, and to do so means we have to pay for them. And so if you're going to commit to these things, that means you have to find costs elsewhere, because the relief, as we've seen for the last couple of years, isn't really there from the state. And so we've been making difficult decisions over the last year and a half. We've reduced our overall operating budget. We've reduced central office staffing by a significant percent. And now we're at a point where we're taking on consolidations. So as it sits for the 25-26 school year, our budget deficit's around $20 million. So it's down from the 94 that it was the year prior. We're continuing to push towards a stable state. We need to make sure that our expenses meet the actual sources of funding that we have available to us. The oscillations or the changes in funding are really, really problematic. And you just mentioned title funding, right? Federal dollars. So just a couple weeks ago, we had a freeze of about $9 million. Title II, Title III, and Title IV dollars were frozen from the federal government. They're under review. And just to be clear, these dollars are going away in 26-27. This was a freeze while they review them, but let's be really clear. They're going to go away regardless in the next fiscal year. And so we thought we would have them for this year, found out that we wouldn't have them, and then over the course of 2 weeks with advocacy and different people understanding what these dollars really meant, they ultimately became released. But in that period of time, you think about the frustration and the strain in the system when you have incredible staff not knowing what's next, right? And we're not at a place where I can just move them onto the general operating budget like that. We don't have that flexibility at this point. And so we're being very strategic. We're being really clear that as we move forward, we're going to be kind of reducing our reliance on these grants for staffing. Certainly for programming and other resources, we'll have those funds available. But for staffing in particular, we're really moving away from relying on them. And so that work is difficult. Again, we're very transparent and very clear. But yeah, that is something that we struggle with, and all school districts in the state of Texas and the country struggled with it as well.
Yeah, so obviously you talked about state lawmakers a little bit. So can you talk a little bit about HB2 and how that has impacted you guys?
Yeah, so HB2 was the funding bill from this last 89th legislature. We are obviously very, very grateful for any support and relief the state can provide. I want to be very clear, like, we are grateful. But as I said before, we have, every school has a different experience, different way that they utilize funds to improve student outcomes. At the end of the day, when you think about what we actually get to use to support our deficit, it's about $9 million. So our total budget is $1.6 billion. So yes, we're grateful. Yes, we're going to deploy additional compensation for teachers and librarians, and yes, we're going to leverage all the funding available. But at the end of the day, much of that is passed through, which is great. It's very much needed. What we get to keep and retain for other expenses that are high is about $9 million. So we're working through all that. We're grateful, but there's still a lot of work to be done, which is why we still have to go through the consolidation process.
Great. And before I move on from drilling you with the budget,
yeah.
Can you kind of just talk about like where your current staffing levels are, and just
yeah.
obviously go through the cuts you guys have had to unfortunately make?
Yeah, so as a district, we're about 96.8% staffed, so very, very high staffing levels. Right now, we have about 300 positions that are not filled within our teacher categories. But to put that in perspective, we have over 5,500 teachers, right? So that's less than 5%. It's about 3.5%. So, for us as an organization, a healthy organization really wants to be about 3 to 5%, attrition. We, in years past, have been about 85%, 80% staffing. So this is another year of significant improvement. Last year we were able to get to 97%. This year, starting as high as we are, is definitely a step in the right direction. As far as principalships go, principals are incredibly important. They are kind of the connection between all things into the classroom, and so over the last many years we've really been able to stabilize that. A couple years ago we hired over 20-something principals, like 23, 24. This year we hired 6, and we knew where they were going. Many of them came into central office, so it wasn't like they left the organization, and that is a clear indication of a stable school system. And all that matters, right? If you have stable principals, then you have stable educators, and that obviously helps students move in their academic kind of journey. And so for us, we are in a really good position. We're keeping a close eye on the restart schools with Dobie, Burnett, and Webb, because they had a little bit of a later start. But we've made up that ground. Our school communities have been really great about helping us find solutions, and we're very close to meeting the mark there. And as we move forward, here in central office, we went through some cuts. We reduced the number of staff at central office, and it's just an acknowledgement that the number of students we support and serve has decreased over the last 10 years. Now we've stabilized, we're around 73,000, but from 10 years ago, we're down a significant amount, and we needed to acknowledge that. We needed to make some changes, as difficult as they were, and we've made those. And so we're becoming, very lean. We are not wasting resources, and we're ensuring to the best of our abilities that those limited resources we have go into the classroom. And as we move forward, the consolidation work is going to be difficult, but it's something that if we can get through it, we'll be in a very stable place come spring of 2026, and I think set us up for a successful series of years after that.
Great. Now, sort of transitioning into a lot of laws were passed this
Yeah.
legislative session that are going to affect you guys. So starting off with the biggest one, obviously the cell phone ban. So where are you guys at with implementing that?
Yeah, so I am an advocate for removing cell phones from the classroom. I actually had spoken to my board, or our board of trustees, back in the spring of 2025. So before the legislation had even been proposed, that this is something we wanted to do. Just rewind a year almost, the idea came up. We have existing cell phone policies within Austin ISD. Some schools have very clear policies, and they already are operating without cell phones in the classroom, in the hallways, and in the cafeteria. And then we have other schools that don't have it quite as tight, and it's because that's just how they did it. But when you go into those environments and you see, one school of, one middle school where kids are having a great time and talking to one another and, conversing, another school and everybody's on their cell phone, you realize just the impact it has in the educational environment. So we have already brought forward a policy change. It's actually going to be up for vote here at the August board meeting. We are introducing it early because the state is going to finalize rulemaking here in the middle of the fall. And what we didn't want to do was to introduce a whole new policy mid-semester. And so we have our policy, which requires all of the cell phones to be placed away from the student, ideally in a backpack, turned off, ideally, and not come out during the day at all, right? Unless there's an emergency or that we need to contact mom or dad or guardian, then we can use the cell phone. Obviously, there'll be tweaks based on what the state does, but we wanted our communities to get familiar with it before we made those slight adjustments instead of just introducing something new mid-semester.
Perfect. And another one that also was passed was putting the 10 Commandments up in the classroom. So what's your status with that?
Yeah, so we're in a position right now where we just don't have the resources to organize the effort, deploy them. The way the law was written, it allows for donations to be received. If we receive those donations, then we'll be happy to place them. But right now, we just don't have the resources deployed to print, place, distribute, kind of meet the requirements in the legislation, especially with everything going on as we start the school year. So right now, it's donation-based, which is applicable and allowable under the law. And if we receive them, then we will place them. But as of right now, that's our approach to being responsive and being compliant with that law.
Great. And let me see. Is there any new courses or initiatives or programs you guys want to showcase this year?
Yeah, this year there's a lot of really just great things happening in Austin ISD. As far as showcasing, what I would say is we've been very intentional about aligning programming. You're going to see that be part of the work that we're doing with boundaries. Right now we have middle schools that are split up and going to 5 different high schools. And you think about how that adversely impacts, culture within our communities, programmatic alignment. And so we're really trying to address that. So for us, there are lots of great things to highlight, whether it's our early college high schools or if, it's our CTE programs. We want to make sure that we create avenues so everybody has access and every neighborhood school is strong. And so, we're going to be focusing on becoming a stable organization where you provide the highest quality education with the resources we have. We're going to be focused on making sure that the multi-tier system support, which is how we actually track student growth and ensure that we're providing what is needed to our students, is done with fidelity. If we don't know where our students are, how can we allocate the resources to ensure they get what they need? That is a continued focus for us. As big as we are, years past, we didn't have that ability. Now we do. So it's been a lot of hard work. So this year is all about stabilizing, improving, refining. And then lastly, making sure that we are hyper-focused on continuing to support the special education initiatives that we have, embracing the inclusive environment that we've set as an expectation here as an Austin ISD, also making sure that we kind of take ourselves out of the agreed order, which has been an ongoing kind of weight in the system for the last couple of years. So we're excited. We're very, very, I would say, optimistic, because it's for the first time in a very long time we have stability. I mean, we had 3 superintendents in a year and a half. For the first time, you have 1 in 3 years. That is meaningful, and we're seeing kind of how that stability ultimately impacts our students' growth, and we're excited to kind of take that next step.
Great. And can you talk about any safety initiatives or measures or improvements that you guys have done?
Yeah, so a couple things. The first is in the 2022 bond program, we made a strategic investment to improve the physical safety of all of our schools. And this summer, a lot of that work was completed. And so we talk about security vestibules. You may have heard that term. It is a critical improvement in our facilities, and all of that work was done this summer. So we had about, I think, 38 campuses that actually went through that improvement. They're all coming online now. We also addressed the open space concepts. We had some schools where there weren't walls. It was, areas where students would engage in learning, but it didn't function as like a classroom. And so we address those at many of our schools by way of the 2022 bond program. We have a new Raptor system, or a new system that is kind of taking the place of our old system that allows for improved background checks, quicker background checks, easier to access for all of our campuses when we have visitors. We've continued to be compliant with staffing of our officers, at our campuses, which was the 88th legislature that made that a requirement. And again, here in Austin ISD, we're going to do it. We're going to do it with Austin ISD staff. We're going to do it with people that are trained to work with young people, and we're going to do it with officers. And so we're continuing to build that out. So, safety and security is a focus of ours. It's our priority. It's not why we exist, but it is our priority. And I think that here in Austin ISD, with the actions we've taken, hopefully our families understand that it is actually the case.
Great. And one question that I've been asking superintendents, just obviously more so student related, but we obviously went through some tragedy back in July, and that affected students in districts all across Central Texas. So I guess kind of just talk to me about students coming back to school after that, and maybe any resources they should be aware of that the district has that they can access if they still need it.
Yeah, so we are very, very thoughtful anytime there's a tragedy in our community, and certainly the flooding down, in Kerrville, like that in Kerr County, that had a huge impact in Austin ISD, like a real impact. And so at the time, we deploy resources, our mental health leaders, licensed mental health professionals, everything under the leadership of Dr. Lewis, our counseling and mental health lead. They develop plans and strategies to work with our principals to ensure that our students and staff get what they need in order to be supported. And it looks different, and every campus is going to have different needs. And so as we start the school year, we'll be releasing more information for any student. It's not just that. There are things that occur all in our community, whether and that's unfortunate, but it's the reality of where we are, in the state that we live in and the country we live in, and it's just going to happen. And so we have resources. They're on our website. I can push those out. We push them out every year, and we'll be having messaging at the beginning of the year where our students can access that. And then as events occur, we always deploy resources on site.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let me go through and make sure that I've discussed everything that I want to. Do you know how much longer we have?
Like a couple minutes.
Okay, cool. So I know you guys just did something on Monday about it, but just kind of to do a recap about the consolidations with Burnett, Webb, and Dobie, and where that stands going into the new year.
Yeah, so Dobie, Webb, and Burnett, so those are restarts.
Mm-hmm.
So those are restarts by way of our turnaround plan that was submitted to TEA in June and has been since approved. The consolidation work, the work around boundaries, the work around programming, that is a separate kind of effort that is underway. And so we right now, just in the last week, released our rubric, which was step one of a multi-step process that identified where we have misalignments in our system. Where do we have a school that is being split 5 different ways to go to high school? I just mentioned Martin is one of them. That's just, how are you going to build community whenever you're split up, that many ways? Where do we have boundaries that are split or don't make sense? We really need to address that. We have schools that are over-enrolled. We have schools that are under-enrolled. And we have transfers that have created this imbalance in our system. And so the rubric that was released earlier this week was intended to show just where we need to look deeper. We have misalignments everywhere in this organization. We need to understand them. We need to develop strategies, and we need to develop scenarios. Out of those scenarios will come consolidations, but there are many things that will also be addressed as part of this effort. And that is separate than the work we're doing at Dobie, Burnett, and Webb. Just want to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, that's on me. Sorry, I've been up since 1:30. Everything's starting to mash together.
No. I get it. No, we have restarted those schools. We've been working with our community partners, Austin Voices and others, to ensure that everybody understands, like, hey, we are open. We are embracing our students. We have the right, approach to it. It's going to be an incredible year. We're excited to have these schools continue on in their school communities, and we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that they're successful. But it's going to take all of us together. The one thing I do also want to point out is about 2 weeks ago, we launched an Our Austin ISD initiative. And this is really just in an effort to ensure that everybody in Austin ISD understands that we are one school system. You know, a parent may have an experience at one school, and that may be kind of their world, their universe. But they are one of 116 schools. And what may happen elsewhere in our school district may have an impact on our ability to serve their student. And so it's really about creating an awareness, making sure there's a love and a sharing that is kind of reinforced by this campaign. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, when we do hard things, we know that we can do them as long as we do them together. And so that's really part of that initiative that we just launched a couple weeks ago. And we can do hard things, and we have hard things that we're going to tackle this semester. But we're doing them for the right reasons, and if we get through them, our system, our organization will be, you know, much improved for years to come.
Great, and I think that's a great note to end on.
Oh yeah, thank you.
No, thank you.